Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and today I am joined by Kevin and Mitchell. So we got 3 out of the 4. Still couldn't quite get all 4 of us together, but Alistair is still here with us in spirit. I know, Kevin, you've done a lot of traveling, some vacationing. Mitchell, I know you've been playing some Nexus Blitz. Being held back by certain Ash players who throw arrows at AFK. But we won't talk about. We don't even need to talk about that. Anyways, I just wanted to catch up with you guys. I know we had some exciting action this past weekend, but yeah, let's start off with how you guys are doing. Kevin, tell us a little bit about your trip, man.
The trip was great. I had some excellent food. Got to see friends and family, so it was a win-win there. Got some anime stuff, so that was fun. And then I went to the arcades and just saw a lot of sights. It was great. The weather was good, so can't complain. I also got to watch Worlds on the right time zone, so that was really nice. Now it's back to the usual, but it's all right. We only have 2 more weeks left to go, so I won't ruin my sleep schedule over Worlds this time.
True.
Yeah, I'll do it for you, bud. I'll do it for you. Yeah, I've definitely ruined my sleep schedule. I mean, I wouldn't say ruined. I kind of always am doing this sort of thing, but yeah, I've been watching it live. It's been really fun watching it live, I think. I kind of go full ADHD mode. I have like both Cadril and Double co-stream up, and I watch it. I like to hear the reactions for different takes, but I've been good. Been good.
Cool, man. Yeah, so before we jump into the recap and of all the stuff that happened, we do have a bit of NA news. There's actually a few things going on, but I think the biggest one and most notable one is the roster changes on C9. First of all, the announcement of JoJo joining as the mid laner. Also, Sven being released, which we talked about a little bit, Mitchell, just kind of like where we wanted to see that team go, but also Vulcan being brought in. Which is interesting. And then kind of a question mark on Fudge. I don't really know what's happening, if he's still there or not, but I think that's kind of a wonder there. But I think...
a wonder there. That was well worded.
Like that? I actually didn't mean to do that, but there are rumors possibly, maybe Wonder, joining. But also, I know that Berserker extended his contract, so that's also... a good thing to note. But I know, Mitchell, a little bit, me and you talked about how we would like to see Blabber and Berserker kind of remain as the core and see some changes made. So it seems like Cloud9 has really listened to us, honestly, from last week's episode, and then made all those changes. But so that's what it was. Let me get your thoughts on that. What do you guys think?
I think it's good timing on their part to put this out, because it was a pretty disappointing Worlds for C9. They pretty much got perfect game before they 4-manned bot. But on the bright side, this is like one of the most exciting rosters that we've seen in a while. This is about, this is a little sad, but this is the most hype roster we've ever heard of in NA since FlyQuest last year. Right? Because the caliber is relatively similar. I think Berserker staying is a good sign that Vulcan, or at least someone of a high enough caliber to keep him on the team, was signed. Or it was at least very close to sign, right? Because there's no reason otherwise, in my opinion. If Sven is leaving, and he at least outwardly said he would play with Sven, he needs someone like of a high enough caliber for that. Otherwise, Blabber, JoJo, we've been hyping this for a long time. I think what's really exciting is between Blabber, JoJo, Vulcan, and I don't know who's the top laner, but if it is Wonder, like, we have another 3 out of 5 NA roster that looks really crazy. Like, those rosters we theory crafted before, where we're just like, what if we could get the best NA players together? This is one of them, right? So really proud of NA if we can get it together. And then it just comes down to like, will they work together? But I really want to see Blabber with an aggressive mid laner. He has not had one in a hot minute. Like, if his best laner between Niski, Perks, and MNS was like Niski.
It was probably Jensen, right? Was his best mid laner.
But it was in terms of aggression. I think Jensen's more of the whole package, right? In terms of like the lane dominant CS lead, let's mid jungle screw them over. I think it might have been Niski, and that was a long time ago.
At least domestically,
domestically.
Domestically. I mean, I'm pretty excited for this roster too. Bringing some of the best NAs together. This is one of those dream rosters. That's totally true. We'll see though, right? Because something that's been going on with Blabber for literally years. Like he's no longer even close to a rookie, right? We're talking he was debuted 7 years ago, 6 years ago, and he seems to still be having some stage problems, some international just choking problems. And Sven was on the right there the same boat. Sven's been playing for longer, right? Add in a couple of years onto that, it's like he's been playing for 8, 9 years. He was on 2015 Origins, right? So our problem is like choking, and I hope we get players that don't choke, right? Like Vulcan doesn't seem to fully, but a little bit, right? He's had some like sketchy MSI performances, but not like terrible, right? And Jojo, I think he played okay at his last MSI, but just one Worlds performance, one MSI for JoJo. I'm excited for the future, right? I think we all wanted to see JoJo get a really good team. He is from that EG roster that kind of got everybody's mind on this stuff. So I hope it works out. Yeah, I don't. It's hard to go really deep on it though. I'm not really sure what to think of it unless I see the other rosters because it just seems good.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that, right? And honestly, I've been kind of looking at some, at least fan made pages on like the roster moves so far. And
Mm,
other than Cloud9 and NRG, the
yep,
rosters really don't look that strong. I mean, because Team Liquid is probably going to be shaken up. I
we'll
don't know
see.
what
Yeah,
that's even going to look at. So, really, other than Cloud9 and NRG, like, what is there? So, I hope and I'm hoping that it doesn't become just like those two teams and then everybody else is just dog crap. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't be good.
yep,
But again, that's kind of where we're at with all the rumors of org selling and salaries just continuing to get cut. It's going to be interesting. And speaking of that, like I know Sven on his exit said that he's looking to play ADC again. He does not want to play support,
yeah, yeah. It's true.
which is going to be. I mean, I don't know. He'll probably find. He could probably
Shopify
find.
Sven.
Yeah, maybe he might find an NA team, but
Mm,
again, it's been a long time since we've seen that. So either way, I think this roster is going to be really good, at least in North America. I
yeah,
think even
yeah.
if they
North America.
stumble their way to the top and go through growing pains, I still think them and NRG are going to have pretty clear cut paths to the top of at least the LCS. Now it's just a matter of can we beat an Asian team in a series in an
Yeah.
international tournament. That would be, I think, the real test. And I guess if that happens, then maybe it's a win. Even if LCS looks a little bit doo doo. So, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, my final thoughts are like I think the interesting thing we can't get out of it is like we keep on hearing NA's gonna go budget, but like this could not have been easy to put together, in my opinion, right? Even though it's cheaper than previous years, it's all relative. So there's probably going to be one of the bigger spending orgs. And relatively speaking, C9 doesn't usually spend big. They did once for perks, but they got a lot of their money back. So all that to say is maybe Liquid will also be doing something similar.
Maybe.
But I don't know, is Ven to Liquid? Oh god, it's like something like that might be possible because he wants to be joining a top team. Why would he
Yep.
leave C9 otherwise, right? Unless he's doing this without any offers on the table or at least potential verbal offers. So I think that while the C9 roster, it's hard to judge besides it being exciting, and then we'll just see the synergy. I think it might say something about how the top teams might still care, right? Especially
Yep.
with rumors of other orgs leaving and new orgs coming in. We saw what NRG did. I mean, they didn't spend that much money on the roster themselves. They just picked up the CLG roster and then switched up bot lane, and that worked. But the real money they spent was on the coaching, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
Oh
huge
yeah.
investment.
Oh yeah.
Well,
And most teams don't spend that much money on coaching, at least not to that level, right? That was ridiculous. It was meme worthy until it was actually an NA pride thing. So all that to say, I'm really excited for what that means for the rest of the league because we might still get cool rosters on paper just because they can afford them now.
True. Yeah.
maybe yeah. It was a bit of a budget year to an extent for some teams. But I do think Sven announcing his departure and saying that he's a free agent for ADC pretty close to when he is eliminated. Just a guess. Sounds emotional. Sounds like he really was disappointed in playing support and immediately got booted or immediately booted himself and was like, I gotta. I'm doing ADC. Immediately hop on. I'm sure he's a big grinder, right? I always respect him for that. He probably is hopping right back onto ADC to try and get a team for next year. Um, and then another thing I'd like to say about C9 is, very relevant to what we were talking about energy is coaching. I do think C9's been having a similar coaching staff for a long time. Not a fan of the choices between drafts that they've been doing for years, where they they seem to have a certain system or idea of how to draft. We don't know, right? Internally, we could be talking about our asses. From externally, for years, it looks the same. We can follow trends. Not a fan of what they do for years and years in international drafts and stuff like that. So, would like to see a change in coaching. Maybe that's Mithy. Maybe that's some other guy, Max Waldo Vega or V2. I have no idea who's on there still. But yeah, that's my thoughts. And the last thing I want to drop on, this could be a big topic, but maybe we leave it alone for now, is that this isn't the only, it's not just NA. The entire world is going to go through massive roster changes because it's like every couple of years this happens. It's usually like 3 or 4 years where everybody's contracts ends over the entire year. Like all of the JDG is done, all of SKT is done, all of GenG is done. Like all these rosters are going to blow up. That's exciting. That's
Yeah.
really crazy. Like we could get, so this is the interesting thing about C9 signing the roster so early. It's pretty sketchy sometimes if you think about it, because like we could see some crazy players looking to go to NA. We have no idea, right?
That's true.
All depends on
Mm.
World's performances. All depends how things shake out with contract situations, who resigns with their team, right? You know, we
It
don't know.
is.
Chovy could mental boom and come to NA. We really don't know.
I mean, he hasn't
Oh
been
my.
making it. I told you last time that I didn't think he was ready to get over the hump. He still didn't get over the hump, which we'll dive into. But who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that is enough to send him over our way. I'll gladly
Yeah,
take
I
it.
mean,
Whatever.
TL Chovy,
Uh,
TL Showmaker, like
Oh my
anything's possible
goodness.
these days. Anything's possible.
then again, that would kind of go against the whole trend of not getting imports anymore, and
Yeah,
we
we can
can't.
make exceptions sometimes, I think, for
I think
certain
so.
players.
I mean, I think just the trend might change, but there were always teams that wanted to go full import if possible, right? So
Hmm.
it's just like what strategy and what budgets they have to win with.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All
we'll
I have to
see.
say is
We'll see.
basically I'm just coping if TL does somehow go imports again.
The
If
most
TL goes, if
expensive roster ever assembled
yeah,
again.
well, if they
They
do
don't
go
have that kind of
imports
money right
again,
now.
yeah, like I hope it's just like because the imports that we got were it was like Summit and Pioshik, right? And it's not like Pioshik was pretty decent, but we haven't NA hasn't gotten like an S tier level import in quite a while. Like Prince was close, but not quite like actual S tier level,
I'd
Yeah.
say Prince
import.
was the highest, the most S tier level we've gotten.
No, well, yeah, well, I would say like I mean, depends how you see it. We haven't gotten like like a player like Chovy. Like that is like
Yeah,
I think
that's pretty up there.
I think that like or like Showmaker or like someone like Ruler or something like a really really insane top of their game type of player. We've never got
Wouldn't the
not in a long
argument be that
time, right?
that's never happened, period, in NA then? Because
Yeah,
Bjergsen was
yeah.
unproven. Perks was the most famous and well decorated
Probably
player to ever come,
Perks,
right?
Core JJ, somewhere around there. Maybe
Yes,
Impact,
maybe
like way
Core
back in the
JJ.
day. Like those are some of the top tier, but we've never gotten one of those actual S tier players like worldwide
That's
before.
true.
And this is probably one of the few years where it is possible.
True.
Because of the timing of things, right? So I don't know,
Yeah.
just for fun to think about. Not like it's gonna
Very fun.
happen.
Very
Hmm.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah. All
yeah.
right. Well, we're gonna wrap the NA news up for now because there's still
Hmm.
gonna be lots of stuff that happens, of course, because NA is officially done now that Energy is out. So we'll talk more about different roster changes in future episodes. But it's a sad day for NA fans because NRG is finally knocked out against Weibo Gaming. They hadn't won any games this Worlds against Weibo Gaming. It's like they played against
Yeah.
Western teams and then that team, and they just couldn't beat that team ever at all. And
Yeah.
honestly, I thought game one with their Senatom Kench pick, I was actually surprised that it went through, and I was like, this is their game. This is going to be the thing. And to me, it just seemed like after they lost that game, I think that was kind of like, oh my gosh, that was maybe their best chance, maybe in their minds, thinking because they had done so well with that kind of that lineup. But the other two games just didn't really seem like they had any kind of chance. But what are your thoughts on that series? Weibo Gaming 3-0ing our beloved NRG, RIP to them. But thoughts on that series?
Sad.
I think my thoughts on that series is that like I think NRG just didn't have a lot of cards to play after game one. They played what
Yeah.
was probably their best showing in terms of comp wise. They did a pretty okay job. I think it was a very reasonable attempt. And I think what was more disappointing was that they just couldn't. That was it, right? Once they had fired that shot, it felt like they just could not match. I would also say, to NRG's credit, while Weibo looked very shaky in group stage, I think the Shy is a very bad matchup for their team. I think that him being on point is unlucky for NA because he was just power in team domestically. He was power in team all the way up until Worlds. And I think even when they were doing badly, he was always good, but he was ramping up. And it's the Shy Worlds buff. It happens. Unlucky
Yeah.
for us. But I mean, we got where we wanted to. Honestly, I think after that point, like, enough people started hoping that it was doomed. NRG just
Yeah.
was cursed,
That's what happened.
counter cursed.
That's true. Probably partway through game one, things really took a turn, right? It was like with that Baron fight, FBI kind of lost his mind, ran face forward into a Cassante, and it was just GG. It was just over. I do have some problems with Energy's draft in game one. I think the Viego was completely useless. That champ, I think, has no use in Worlds this year. There's so many OP junglers. I think Contracts and Energy are probably kicking themselves that they didn't think about Wukong, right? Wukong actually ended up being pretty decent pick. Would have been way more valuable than Viego, right? I don't know other teams touching Viego because they know you got other better stuff to do. So I think they're probably bummed about that one. I also think they're kind of the punching bag. You know, they got everybody found out about the Send a TK meta. Now other people are kind of adopting the Send a TK stuff, and they're perfecting it. And what you can't actually do is you can't blind pick it. You cannot blind pick it if you don't know what the enemy support is, and that's what happened. Weibo Gaming picked a range support into TK, and then boom, you take out so much power. Like you stop Senna stacking really quickly, you stop all the lane prio you have, you avoid a lot of the stat checking that Senna TK can do in the early phase, and yeah, Weibo just countered it with the last pick support. And so I have a sneaking theory that Red side is going to look better than people think. Red side is going to be a bit better because of last pick support, and if you get Rel or Senna or other stuff that T1 did to do flex picking. And I just think, it sucks. Energy didn't figure it out, even though they had 12 coaches or whatever. But yeah, the meta developed past them, and it's like, oh man, Energy was actually really behind the meta. Yeah. But still, good showing, good year for them. Lots to learn, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good showing for them. I think the only, I guess, concerning thing for me is that, like, again, it's like it does feel really good to beat EU, right? It would feel really good if we could beat an Asian team. I think to me that would really, and that's why Golden Guardians was so hype, right? Like at MSI, because it's like, oh, okay, like I've never seen that before. Like maybe that could be a thing, right? But they couldn't even get one game, and that's kind of what hurt my soul a little bit because had they lost a series but taken one, like that first game, maybe I would have been feeling a lot better. Now that's not to take anything away from them because they did play well. I also think they played well, under pressure, like in the big stage compared to our other NA teams who kind of just pooped the bed, didn't show up. NRG did consistently when people always thought they were the underdogs. Yes, I know it's a meme that, everyone always doubts them, but that's great. Like, I hope they continue that same mentality throughout next year. And I hope it doesn't this success, I hope doesn't put like this standard on them now where they're like expected to be that good.
We'll see.
Maybe that changes that. Maybe that changes their perspective and mentality going.
Look what happened to Golden Guardians. That's exactly what happened to them. Everybody started believing them. They were considered favorites going to playoffs. Literally a week passed, and they were bad again.
And that's because that can happen. Like when you're on top, it is almost, I would say, harder. I mean, and I'm not speaking I'm speaking from what I've heard top teams who've won championships, who won and other sports too, saying that the first one is hard, but the trying to repeat and then three-peat is even harder because you have a target on your back. You have expectations now. You're even more under a microscope. So I'm just hoping they continue the mentality of like, hey, we're going to do us. We're going to play how we play without that kind of pressure on there. And we're just going to continue to surprise people. So good on them, though. I think they did well.
Good on them. I think that is actually the defining kind of idea for this quarterfinals. It was pressure. That was what defined so many of the series, I think. So many of the players, so many of the weird plays that we saw, right?
Yeah.
Pressure was the main thing this weekend. it wasn't necessarily about quality of play. It was the pressure that determined the quality of play. Because I think when we go down the list and talk about these players, we're gonna be like, these are not the skill levels that these players usually show.
True.
99% of the time, they're like this, and this that one series at the end of the year, they did something else. So pressures. It's
Yeah,
tough. It's
it's a
hard.
big
Mm-hmm.
thing, and that is something you have to overcome as a player. And this is a perfect segue into the Gen G BLG series because we talk about pressure and stepping up to the international stage. Chovy has been that guy where he is the one that's supposed to he's so good. I mean, there's
He
nobody
is
doubting
very
that
good.
he's so good. But
Yes.
whenever it comes time for him to get past that hump of just advancing further into worlds, it just hasn't happened. And I feel like at what point do you say this guy's just not it? Or, and I can kind of say that, I don't want to say it, but I can kind of say that about Blabber and other people who don't really perform. Like, when is
I
it,
definitely, yeah,
yeah, I
Sven
mean,
for sure, man.
Sven,
It's
yeah,
on that list
exactly.
for
Like, it's so
me.
like, is Chovy that player for the Asian teams who's just known
Yeah.
for not being able to do it? So let's segue into that series. Gen G losing 5 games. It did go all the way to the end against BLG, but your thoughts on that series?
Yeah. So my thoughts on that series was that what? How do I even start? Like, okay, so Chovy would be a great millionaire for C9 because if your goal is to destroy domestic, Chovy shows up. They won 3 in a row, guys. Like, this team is crazy. They continue to be super strong domestically. I watched a lot more LCK than usual, just in terms of like all the matches that the top teams played in. And I was like, oh, yeah, Chovy's got it this year. He's not just a farmer; he also roams and like has pressure. Okay, they could be a threat. But the reason why I voted BLG, I was like, I mean, matchup wise, even though the meta was in GenG's favor this time, and GenG got blue side, like every excuse you can think of under the sun, they had home crowd advantage. He just didn't show up. Now that's just one of the narratives. I'll go through them all like as we go back and forth. But the things I want to highlight is Chovy game 5. He was not the first throw, but he was one of the major throws with a terrible TP at top inhib turret. They got run down. I was like, Chovy, what in God's name? And then it's also part and parcel of him picking a colleague because he would rather pick a colleague, right? Than pick was it into Ori that game?
Yeah, it was
in
Ori.
Ori.
Yeah. So he's obviously probably a good enough Orianna player, but the whole series, right? He would opt into Akali versus Nico, Akali versus Ori, instead of picking what is the meta power pick, right? So it's the classic I'd rather learn the counter pick than actually play the character kind of player, which he has the hands for it. So, and he also was having a CSC on Akali or even against Orianna, which is absurd.
Yeah, your guy was trolling, yeah.
Last thing I'll say on this run through, the initial is Doran is so fake. Once again, he's Zeus's dad, but that's it, man. Like, this guy is not it. He loses to every LPL top laner in history every time without fail. I don't get it. I don't get how he keeps getting on the team. He must be the nicest teammate ever or something, because he's on every he's like on so many of the greatest teams of Korean history that aren't T1 related. Oh my God, if he goes to T1, I will lose my mind. Don't put Faker and him together. I think
that's one of the worst
I will say
timelines.
that it's a skill to be able to pick good teammates, by the way. I actually think that part of your GOAT status is being able to identify who you are happy to play with and who you accept to play with, right? Like, Berserker might be the GOAT of ADC here, but if he keeps picking Zen, then yeah, I would have said maybe he needs to have better eyes.
Yeah.
And
I actually really agree with that point.
Doran.
Yeah, I really agree with that point. Like, that's actually something I secretly think Doublelift is good at. This dude will leave a team and int his brains off to get on a winning team. Like, this guy moves to a roster and then that roster wins. Okay, not recently, not in his most recent year, but back before he retired, that was just true. That's just happened. So I totally agree with that. I do think that's a skill. Yeah, something I want to say about GenG as a whole is that they are probably going to make roster changes and they are going to risk not winning everything, right? That winning 3 titles in Korea is impressive. That is a good ass team. Yeah. But let's be real, guys. Like, they just have to have a change of pace. Peanut, Doran, Chovy have been on this team for quite a long time, and like, I think we did highlight Chovy a lot, right? He had some really awkward stuff. He clearly does not play Orianna, one of the oldest champions of the game. He just doesn't play it for some reason. And his Akali was like some weird just mix of being very aggressive and being very passive, and that he would like there's that one point he jumps over and he's fighting like BLG's bot lane and he's just not ulting and he like shrouds really early, he uses his E and he's just chased down. It's like, dude, if you just committed your R immediately, you could have gotten out or you could have killed somebody. But instead you didn't do anything. You had no angle to R. He died. It's just like it feels like he's not thinking and he's under a lot of pressure. It reminds me a lot of like last year against DRX when he was like doing Gromp and then he was playing Rise and he just flashed when he saw somebody and Realm warped away and there was nobody near him. It's like he is so stressed. He's under so much pressure, self-inflicted. To talk about Doran and Peanut though, they had some of the most egregious, like literal blunders I've seen in a top game. Okay, I don't know even if I call it a blunder. I have no idea what it is. I don't think anybody knows what it is. Doran on Aatrox just flashing over the wall, ulting, and then running away. Do you guys remember that? That was the most awful but funniest play because like he intentionally flashed over the thick part of the wall. That's not easy to do quickly, at least. So he meant to do that. And then Peanut just like ult comboing on Rel and not hitting. There's no one close to him. He's just ults Wing and stuff like that.
Was that a fat finger? You think that was a fat finger?
I think there's parts in your W animation where you can and can't flash. I just think he messed it up. So he didn't flash. I think he wanted to flash WR.
That was 100%. That was 100% the look of someone who thought they were flashing because he knows his range well enough that there's no way he would have gone for that raw. Right? That was a flash play. He just what Mitch said. He forgot the combo. He was like, oh, I can't flash at this point. Oops.
Oops. Yep. I already pressed W and it's a little too late to fly. Okay, we're just ulting. Yeah. Okay, to try and be positive about GenG and then probably to talk about BLG a little bit is I do think Delight is a rookie, right? He played very, very well.
That guy played a rookie, but he hasn't been on a good team ever.
Greenish. Okay, he's sort of green. He played very, very well. I thought Delight was a nice look for him, and I thought Pays. He is a rookie, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And he played all right. Considering his whole team was collapsing around him, I thought Pays was admirable. I would love to see him again. Yeah. And then, well, BLG, we can probably get more into it. Maybe when we do predictions, but. Okay, I actually want to say something really quickly about BLG. Okay, when BLG, so he's playing Renekton, Bin, right? Bin's a god, but there are so many instances. I secretly think I have that Yagao and Bin hate each other. I have a secret theory. Okay, so Bin is on Renekton. He's top side. There is a wave coming into him, and you see Yagao. He's coming from base. Bin is literally recalling in front of a wave crashing in front of his tower. Because Yagao's coming up and saying, no, don't take that. I'm going to take that farm. You go bot lane. Like, I don't know. I feel like Bin was protesting in some of those plays he later made on Renekton. That's just a theory. I notice Yagao do this all the time. I swear this guy makes plays to screw over his teammates in lane assignments all the time. It happened in both of their losses, and I was like, yo, Yagao is griefing his team with these lane assignments. He's making people leave and ruining their tempo to take their farm, and then he just runs it down on Nico and doesn't do anything. So, just a theory. I just noticed it. It was during the co-stream. Some people were like sort of noticing it, and then I gave that hypothesis myself. So yeah, it's funny.
I mean, you never know. It sounds about right.
I think it would be ridiculous if I think that's a funny theory. I think it'd be ridiculous if they were beating GenG while also literally just like target inting their teammates for a vendetta, but I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah. Do you remember KT versus IG? The series reminded me so much of KT versus IG in 2018, where the Shy was like, "No, F you, I'm picking Fiora," right? And then they lose that game barely, and then he gets kicked out of the roster. For Duke. So I honestly think like there is a little bit of like that ego sort of like this is the choice macro play, and Bin is like, bro, F the macro. Let me just take this farm in front of me. I'm Bin. I'm carrying. I'm God. Because he is. I mean, don't pick that guy Renekton, please.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Kevin,
agree.
do you have any final thoughts on that series?
Yeah, before we get to the, we'll focus more on predictions, but when we're on the prediction side, but I think that Bin has been playing absurdly well. He also is the type of guy who takes a lead and he's just like, oh, I'm up 20 CS. I could be up 40 or 50 if I freeze hard. I'm going mid. I'm going bot. I don't give a shit. He's always about now. He's always been about roaming his lead elsewhere, and I think that's a really good sign for an actual good player, because there's a lot of people who have been good at lane, but very few of the top laners have the teamwork. I don't know if he's the one thinking about it, but the teamwork to actually execute with his team and carry that lead elsewhere. So I think that's what's made him so scary as a top laner. He also just like made Doran like, oh my god, he just did some unspeakable things in most of those games.
Nobody wins. We haven't seen anybody but 369 just beat. No one wins against Bin. It's just. I guess it just doesn't happen unless your name's 369. It's pretty insane. It's pretty insane what he's doing to people. Some other things I want to comment though. Okay, this is more of an attack on GenG. Guys, what is these drafts, man? I feel like BLG was getting Mega Exodia every single draft. J4, Orianna, Rumble, like just over and over again. Like, by the way, Bin said he played Rumble for 2 weeks. Like, his coach was like, yo, so you don't play Rumble, but we picked this, right? And he's like, yeah, first pick that shit. Lock that shit in for me. Bin doesn't care. That chance broken. But yeah, maybe we don't give Mega Exodia over to BLG 5 games in a row, right? Like, June was that guy was so hard smurfing on J4. Yeah. He looked like, honestly, it was like contracts his performance. I was like, you're just letting EQ flashes, you're everywhere all over the map, you're hitting all these good stuff, good ultis. You know, Tarzan really thought, right? He was an LPL jungler, but he is not, yeah. But fun series still fun series. I'm glad it went to 5 games. I mean, it was hype still.
They gave Jarvan Orianna 4 out of those 5 games. I mean, that combo itself is already broken. And then in 2 of those games, they had the Rumble to throw on top of that. And
then in the game
they didn't get it. In the game they didn't get it. They got the Nico instead, which is still pretty good. Yep. I just couldn't believe that we were seeing that every single time. Given over to Jun, and Jun just played it amazingly.
I'm starting to understand why Score was the way he was on KT before. I think that him as the coach for GenG, like, you just see those habits come through where they like they just overbrain him. Like, they're smart players, they're smart drafters. They get too lost in the sauce. And
Jack's first pick? Oh yeah, that's a lost in the sauce.
Jack's first pick on Doran is
on blue side with Rumble up, yeah. Or it wasn't Rumble, it was Aatrox, yeah.
It was Aatrox, but like Ben probably takes that and does fine on it, right? But you just gotta look at your players, man. You can't do that. So once again, they almost, like, there is a world they got 3-0'd in the series. I don't think it was as close as the IG 3-0, like where it was like on the Nexus.
Oh yeah.
But I will say, like, I think throughout the series, despite it being almost a reverse sweep, BLG was the favorite team throughout the series.
I agree.
Games 3 and 4, BLG had the tempo. They had leads at multiple times. They were just fundamentally playing well, and GenG was show like their class at times. That's why they were winning. But like it did feel like they were always on the back foot. I was just like, what was this draft? Why are you putting your team in such a cursed position over and over? I just kept feeling that.
Yeah, I do think to add on to that, BLG definitely in that game 3, they had 2 dragons, and they decided to just give their dragon with their comp and a lead. I feel like that was just like such a weird, uncharacteristic call, and I don't remember correctly. So if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, Yagao. I think Yagao went to top lane to catch a wave, and they just gave up their dragon, and they lost all their tempo, and they ended up losing that game. Yeah, it could have been a 3-0 for BLG. I think another thing that maybe was hurting BLG was they started picking these really trash bot lanes, like Kate Braum and Ash Tom Kench. It's not like they're the worst things in the world. I think they make sense in that, like, Tom Kench is good against Vi, and Braum is good against Nautilus and Maokai and stuff like that. But like the synergies in the bot lane, like Doublelift in the Koshin was immediately like, these bot lanes are mega garbage, yet they're still going even in lanes. So what do I know, I guess. But I mean, props to BLG's bot lane to playing really, really well with some awful combinations. Like, Elk is just so good, man.
He's really good. And that's what I think. The double, like when you mentioned Doublelift, it is almost like I feel like those teams that are that good can pull something that looks really doo-doo on paper and make it look like, it is could kind of be workable, or maybe
it's okay, I guess. Happen, yeah.
You know? But anyways, let's move on, because I'm sure we'll talk about them a little bit more in the predictions. But let's go to JDG versus KT, because KT was actually my second team besides well, okay, third team besides NRG and T1 that I was rooting for. But KT just has had this unbelievable hard run to the top, and secretly I wanted them to just, if they beat JDG, I was just gonna be like, they're gonna win it all. They need to win it all
Yeah.
because they're just so destined to win this. But and when they won game 1, I was getting hype, and I was like, "This is it. This is gonna be amazing." And then
You got excited, bro. Yeah.
That's what happened. I'm the worst. Like, you don't. If you're a professional team, you don't want me rooting for you because I will jinx you to the ground, and that's exactly what happened because they got 3-0'd after that. But let's talk about JDG versus KT. I mean, obviously JDG got their stuff together and pulled that out, but I was secretly rooting for KT. Unfortunately, they didn't do it. So thoughts on that?
Yeah.
KT in game 1 showed their class. Oftentimes I say for dominant teams domestically, like when people say they didn't show up, I say, well, no, they just played against a better team. So obviously they just look worse, right? But KT showed the same level we saw like at their peaks in domestic when they were dominating. I was like, wow, it's legit. They actually can do it. They had better team fight setups at times, better lane assignments for sure, and just a really solid early game. I don't necessarily think their draft was better, but we'll get into throughout the series. But at least in that game, like it was cohesive. I could see what they're going for, and King played fairly well. After that, though, dude, man, JDG is not okay. JDG is actually not fair. We had multiple times where different players would take turns not showing up, right? Like 369 had an incredible laning phase where he was up CS or even about to kill Jax as Gragas early game. And I'm like, that's not how it works. It's a neutralizing lane.
Yeah.
Stop it, man. But then he did proceed to power int right afterward when he's out of laning phase. So, and then Kanavi was DC'd from the last game. Like he legitimately did nothing on Lee Sin. He did a lot of pressure on the mental of aiming, but he didn't actually do anything. Like he was always been looking for a kick. I'm like, brother, it's Zaya. Just like give it up, man.
That's all you gotta do. Just run at him, I guess.
I'll say because KT's the one out now. BDD, I give the most credit to. I think he played at a very high level for the most part and did not make a characteristic mistake. Pretty much like a big one.
Wait, you're joking, right? BDD had the 2 like worst plays in the game 4. If you remember.
Well, okay. In game 4, he had that play that he walked up. Yes.
He walked up and then the TP in front of everybody. That was pretty bad.
Oh, that was him. Okay. That one I was like the one where they got outplayed. I think that's in the pressure moment, he just lost his mind. But yeah. I agree. That is really bad. That is one of the worst plays actually.
Yeah.
But the TP was actually not his fault. IMO. I think that his jungler literally was charging a punch and he TPs in and the jungler punches out. And so he's actually left by himself. He has got a Vi Lulu. You pick Vi Lulu and you get a setup where Vi is going to die, but he's going to lock someone down. You stun and then you get him killed with your ult, and then you can Zhonya's. But everyone just screwed off. They actually were just like, oh no. That's why BD looked like an idiot there. Which is I was like, oh no, he had the right idea. His team was literally about to get a good choke fight where he has a Syndra there and Zhonya's. He automatically gets a kill on a carry here. As long as they just don't get scared. But I mean, KT is just like that, dude. Under pressure, they will get scared. Keen, especially, the last thing I'll leave it off on it. Keen is so fake, guys. His lane was actually quite good in this series at times, but then he still 369 still was his dad. And then out of lane, his Jax plays where he was just like, guys, I gotta jump in. I have to do something. I'm twirling this baton. I mean, like,
yeah,
like what? I got a stick, and it's E is up, and he just kept going in and inting. There were a lot of close fights where he would always be like 3 to 5 seconds late, which is unthinkable in at that level of play. And he's not it. I actually think this is enough for me to cement that I don't think this guy is legit. I think he's very good at certain things, but he is not an all-around like top laner. You can't just say, oh, you're good at laning, therefore you are good as a top laner. He's 369 on the whole as a laner. He was better in game 1, but every other game after, I think 369 absolutely schooled him at multiple matchups.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I definitely think Keen is just such a comical player with the Jax just flying it. Like, it was actually the funniest part was how long he lived because Jax is that broken. He jumped in, stunned everybody, ulted, Zhonya's, had his E up again. I'm like, you were in there 1v5 for like so long and doing nothing, but you're still in there. Yeah, unfortunate for Keen. I do think that, man, game 1 though, at the very least, it was hype in top lane, right? 2v2 kills, neck and neck, over and over again. right? Both top laners barely dying. I think, Keen. I do think Keen's laning phase is a strong suit for him, but he's out of gameplay. It's pretty questionable. Right? I remember earlier in the tournament he had a lot of questionable Ornn plays where he would just TP and die, run back in and just die again by himself. So Keen does have a bit of that problem, and I do think Cuz, man, he like in that last game, he was having a bad game on Vi, and then he redeemed himself over and over again. Actually, Missing was kind of running it down on the Rakan, and Cuz was just catching him over and over again. And this is what got them their advantage back. Like KT was able to start this Baron because of multiple catches onto Missing, and it was in that last fight you're talking about where BDD was TPing on Syndra and the Vi didn't go in, Vi queued out, right? I think there were multiple moments before that situation where Cuz could have ulted Ruler, but he just was scared, wasn't quick enough to click him, right? But he was in physical range to ulti Ruler, and that would have been big. Ruler started actually hiding in Fog of War away from Vi after that to not get clicked on. So Cuz, I think he choked it a little bit. He was like having such a good game, but at the end he did not pull the trigger. And then now we talk a little bit about JDG. Ruler is just a god. It's just true. This guy has some of the most unbelievable hands I've ever seen. He can read your mind and he's just kiting, like he was kiting aiming on the Xayah when he's trying to pull back the feathers. Ruler already read it like 3 seconds before. He was already running by it to dodge it, like just completely outplaying him in every way. Man, Ruler is so good. And then engaging on Kai'Sa. We haven't seen that stuff since like Uzi times. Like engaging on Kai'Sa like that to give your Rakan the jump in. Oh man, such awesome play. Kind of disgusting. I hope we keep seeing more of it. Like this next series we're gonna get with them is probably gonna be crazy.
I mean, funny you should mention that. He used to say that Uzi was the AD carry that was better than him, like Ruler, because Ruler would get schooled by Uzi's RNG over and over back in the day. Yep. And that's Uzi's specialty, right? The jump in, engage, AD carry. You know your limits. You know where your team is, and start the fight. And it feels like Ruler definitely picked up that trick. He was like, let me study that, and he did it the best of any modern AD carry has done it, except for tactical.
Yeah. Ruler's gonna lock in Malphite to be as good as tactical. Yeah. I mean, other things to talk about. JDG, I think, is that 369 rolled a couple threes. I actually I'm gonna save it for when we talk about JDG versus T1 actually, because I got some things to say about some players.
Yeah, we'll definitely get there because we do have to preview the series coming up. So let's go to the last series, which I was really excited about, which was T1 against LNG. Again, I'm a T1 fanboy, and I really want Faker to win. Like now that the other two teams, KT and NRG, are off my list, I'm all T1 all the way. I want them to win. They go 3-0. They play like absolute gods. Although I do think LNG did not play up to their potential. Still, T1 still played amazing. So let's dive into that series a little bit. What are your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, I would say in this series there's some major beats to focus on. I would say one, Zeus showed up every game. He was playing at his potential. Owner out jungle Tarzan from it was one of the bigger gaps of the tournament. And I would say Tarzan's just like so fake, guys. I think that a narrative that came up, and we can say this now that we got to this game, is that almost every Griffin player not named Viper has been like an absolute choker dog. Like Doran is one of them. Tarzan's another one. Lehens, who was on KT, I believe, this year. Not really. He didn't choke that hard, but he just they don't show up. They don't show their level at all when it comes to international. And I've had enough data points. Tarzan, even domestically in LPL, he had a good split this year. Him and Scout were probably the best duo in Asia, if not one of the best. But when they get to international, I'm just like, where are you, man? Tarzan was literally a bot. He was under farmed despite just power farming. He was playing Jarvan worse than Contracts, when Contracts is under COVID, probably. He was that bad at it. I think Gala's in jail. I think Hong is so fake. I think this man is I've already said this before. He was one of the weakest supports of the top teams in LPL. But like, sometimes like a ball land, like they can do their job. No, Han actually entered Gala. He like literally pulls Aatrox in,
amazing.
like the few
That
pulls
was
against
so
on
good.
Blitzkrieg. He pulls Aatrox in, and like honestly, I think that's when
No.
the series was over. I was like, their mentals all cracked.
You know what I think that was though is like before that I think he had thrown like one blitz hook the whole game. I think that guy was just antsy. He's like I just want to throw a hook. And
I can lift one.
He's like I hit
get
one.
I get it, but like, just don't play Blitzcrank if you get antsy, man. Don't put your like worst player on Blitzcrank. That's such a bad decision. And then the last thing I'll say is like, I don't think Scout showed up today. Scout has shown that he can show up at Worlds. He is not a fraud. However, against Faker, like we haven't seen this very often. The Scout Faker. I think EDG did play T1 back when he was on EDG, but Scout did not look good today, and it's partially because his jungler is literally non-existent, but he just didn't look good. I think Zika is a really good player, but this is his rookie or second year. Maybe he's not like internationally tested at all. And I think he had a very quiet series. I don't think he like power entered in lane or anything, but you could tell when he was put on Gwen duty and he had to be one of the main threats, he couldn't do it. All that to say, T1 played extremely well. The last thing I'll put out is Carrier. They brought out the 80 carries again. They're like, you know what? We're just going to play our game. And it absolutely threw LNG off. I really enjoyed the Nyla pick, and then the Senna pick that they thought it was Tom Kench. And so they picked Blitz, and then they picked Nyla there. I thought that was very smart, and it absolutely just maybe single-handedly broke LNG. LNG, I don't think prepared at all for this.
They got mental boomed.
That's what I'll leave it on.
Yeah, I actually think that draft move right there is going to be one of the coolest draft moves like we've ever seen. That was actually mind-blowingly insane because Neela, for the longest time, has been an absolute garbage pick, but right there at that point, it was so good. It was really, really good, and it was pre-planned too. That's why they blinded Senna instead of Tom Kench, right? They knew what they were getting into, and LNG just fell for the trap. I do think it's just a huge preparation gap, right? That is organization gap right there. Draft gap, coach gap. Like LNG, this is their second or third, I think, international event, and their first time ever making it out of groups, I'm pretty sure. T1 is storied. They're here. They're ready. They are prepared for this kind of stuff. LNG, they did not look prepared at all in draft. They were trying different things all three drafts. They probably had no idea what to actually do. They just didn't have the kind of preparation that is needed to beat a team like T1 at Worlds. So I think that plays a big part into why, Tarzan, Scout, Hong definitely had really, really bad showings. To be fair to Hong, he is also a very green player. He only, this is his second year playing. The year before he was on that FPX roster with Summit. So he's pretty new, and Zika is also very new too. I think he's a rookie this year. Small thing for Zika. He's probably gonna maybe think about this later, but I think he should have taken Ghost instead of Flash. It is a small thing, but I think it would have made a big difference in some of the team fights where he really could not stick on to people. He would get kited and he would just not be able to do anything. And I also think Flash is great at avoiding ganks, but Ghost is great at extending your lead in the 1v1 against Aatrox. It lets you actually just chase him down and not get kited by Aatrox dashes and stuff. So some small things there, but for the most part, yeah, Scout played pretty badly and Tarzan was PayPal'd. It's just true. It was really rough to watch.
Fun fact, Tarzan was 0, 10, and 6 in that series. Probably, I think, the worst player on LNG for that series. For me,
I'm surprised he had kill participation.
Yeah.
It's because he's playing Maokai. You just throw saplings. It just happens. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Or Jarvan flag, right? It just happens. Like.
T1 was just really amazing. Zeus obviously looks so amazing on his Aatroxes, and then his Jace is just hitting those EQ combos I don't know.
Yeah, it's a point and click.
One.
Yeah, it's a point and click skill shot for Zeus.
He was just freaking nailing everybody. But I love to see Faker even. Faker didn't have the greatest, it wasn't like he was solo carrying, but he made so many right decisions, so many great roams. The last game where he was Azir versus Orianna, I think he was down 20 to 30 CS. And you're just like, okay, but he still made huge impacts when he went down bottom lane. He had a nice little shuffle under the turret, didn't get any kills, but he had good roam timers, and he still made huge impacts on his champion, even though the scoreboard wasn't quite showing that he was super carrying. He still played amazing. I love to see it. on the old man, that he still got it. He's still making the right calls, and this is the kind of form I want to see him. This is go time. Like when I talked about players that seem to they're not it, like they're not winners. Faker is a winner. Like obviously that's not in doubt, but it's just like when it comes time, like they were on the brink of not even making it, right? Like when he was injured, and then he showed that when he's back in, he wins. And now he's at the point where this is his comfort zone. Now he's like stepping into the office. He's like, yep, time for me to clock in. And this is just like Faker's time. And he's just so calm and collective. He never seems to just lose it or be under pressure. He's just calm and cool, man. So I wanted to spotlight him again because I got a soft spot for my fellow old man.
I wouldn't say never, considering he got like destroyed by Zeka literally last year. They haven't won an international tournament since 2016. So he is definitely a winner. He is not a choker. He is a human though, so he will have bad games just like anyone
yes,
else.
He is a human.
I will say though, as a Faker fan, I mean, I don't know anyone who isn't a Faker fan. I think he is the most valuable mid laner in all of Korea. I think that there is not a single at Worlds, right? Like if you want a mid laner who can get you across the finish line, is a good laner. Like he can win lanes, he can dominate, and he has a huge pool. He does not have a champ pool issue compared to all the other top Korean mid laners, like the tippy top. Showmaker, there are times where he's like, when it's not his meta, you can tell. The BDD's actually got a pretty good pool, but he makes tilt plays. Chovy, we don't need to get into him too much more. It's very obvious, right? Faker has the leadership, the poise, and the pool, right? He does everything, and when it matters, he very rarely makes a bad play. I can only think of like the Ari Zanya's play as like a super egregiously, like he just clicked the buttons wrong because he was under pressure. But he is probably the most perfect mid laner to have to just glue a team together. I wouldn't have him be your hyper carry, but of all the Korean top mid laners, if I had to draft, I think now he has gone up in my ranking.
I mean, I think he's the best performing mid laner in quarterfinals. I mean, the next best person would be Knight, right? And
I agree. Between him and Knight, it's got to be Faker, right?
Knight had a pretty quiet series, honestly. Knight had that really nice Orianna shockwave over the wall, but for the most part, right? And there was a big Nico play, but for the most part, Knight was just losing lane and just showing up for team fights against BDD. But Faker was like, I mean, I think this is just how the Orianna Azir matchup goes. I think we've seen it enough to say that no matter who plays it, it seems like Orianna just completely destroys that matchup. And yeah, Faker was completely destroying that matchup, and the enemy was very, very pressured to try and stop him. I think this is going to be an extreme statement. This is peak levels of Faker play, though, because the thing that always defines Faker to me is his movement, and his movement was extremely clean. To just walk and sidestep at a zero ulti, that's Faker stuff. That's like no other player does that. Other players get hit by it or they flash it. He just walked the perfect distance around it. Faker had a lot of other just really clean movement plays to escape things, to not die, to just have really good positioning. Like that's to me what feels like peak Faker type of stuff back in the day, and he did that in this series. To be fair, I think it's really fun for him to style on players that are just completely choking out of their minds, which was happening. So we'll see what happens against JDG. But Faker played very, very well. I think Gumayushi played very, very well. Oh my god, Gala was so tilted in that game 3 play. Aphelios just like, he was desperate. He knew it was a 3v2. He just had to get a kill or something, right? So his jungler just jumped in and ulted and then get a kill, right? And just Gumayushi just smurfed on him, just landed everything. So nice. It was this drafting, this meta stuff is the coolest stuff. They feel like DRX from last year, where they're redefining the meta completely in their way, and now everybody has to follow along or get ham-fisted in the lane or find a counter, right? And I think the counter was there. For game 1 for LNG, they had the tools. Yeah, Nila Senna, it sucks. But you had J4, you had Blitzcrank, you had Kai'Sa. Why is nobody pathing bot lane and level 3 ganking the Senna? Just get the Senna's flash. Senna's flash is down. Boom. Like you can just chain kill this bot lane, this range support bot lane that's very squishy, very weak. No one was doing it. You can do the same to Ashe support, right? Like Ashe support has gotten a lot of nerfs. That's why only this team is playing it. If you jump on that Ashe and you burn his flash or kill it, it can't play the same way. It can't push again and again. There's a lot of interesting things. Like we're seeing cool meta adaptations, but they're all things we've seen in the past, and they've all had counters come up to them. Like we know what the counters are if we look back in history. So I'm curious to see where the meta goes, because I do think that T1 with a little help from NRG is going to make a big splash in the meta. Like
Yeah.
JDG is going to have to cook some stuff, because you can't play Kaiser or Khan against Gumi Ushikari. I think you can do it against Aiming and Lehens, and you can play Zeri and Kaiser Rakan and win lane, but I don't think you can do that against Gumi Ushikari. They're too good. They'll play range supports. You'll pick you'll pick Rakan, and they'll pick any champion down the list: Renata, Melio, Ashe, Varus, blah blah blah, and they will dumpster you in lane. So I'm
I
excited.
think
I mean, this was some cool stuff.
yeah, and we'll definitely talk about some meta stuff at the end, but I definitely think that Faker, in addition to being the most, maybe valuable mid laner, he's definitely the most valuable player for Riot right now, because I believe in that series they had like 3 point something million peak viewers during that series. So I'm like, yeah, I think people want to see Faker, play, or if anything, at least see what happens with him still being in the league this long. It's just at this point, it's just mythical status of like this guy being so good still, even at this age. I think if I could compare it to another sport, because Mitchell, I know you love other sports, and LeBron, I know, like,
yeah.
I know you love that
Soccer, right?
I love soccer. Yeah, LeBron James of that soccer team. No, but like LeBron James has been in the league for 21 years and is still
No,
at
come
the
back,
top
Kevin.
of his game. Kevin, do you know what I'm talking? You know what I'm talking about.
I do actually know what you're talking
good.
about. Also, Faker's
See?
27, guys. LeBron's almost had a longer career than Faker's been on Earth. Like, he's not.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys. He's
but
long for league terms,
that's
but like,
right.
It's not,
Right.
We're glazing the hell out of
Exactly.
Faker right now.
Exactly.
You know what? He deserves it. It's
He
fine. I'm
deserves it.
okay
he
with it.
deserves it for sure. He's just not old, guys. What's up with his name?
Yeah.
I'm older than Faker. God damn.
I'm older than Faker too, I think. Yeah, I am. Oh.
I'm older than LeBron, so that's.
Oh
not
my
good,
god, wait, you're
old.
ancient.
I'm
Holy
only a year older than LeBron though, but
I'm only a year older than Faker.
yeah,
Damn.
so
Yeah,
same
1
thing.
year younger, and you would have been the LeBron of our era, man.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
true.
So
See,
close.
so
True.
same thing.
You're right there almost.
Right there. Hey, okay. Well, let's preview these upcoming games now. We've got Weibo Gaming and then BLG on Saturday.
Wow.
So let's start there.
Yep.
Let's get predictions or your thoughts on the series. I'll start. Mine will be quick. I really think, Weibo had, I hate to say it, an easier matchup with NRG. I think BLG is just
Really?
another class. I do. And I think BLG is going to win it. I say 3-1. I don't even think it's going to be that intense. So 3-1 BLG, just I think better team. That's it for me.
Domestically, Weibo Gaming has never even held a candle to beat this version of BLG. They counter if JG was on the side of the bracket, yeah, there could be some real interesting talks. I don't know why. I believe in style matchups for sure. I mean, it's just been proven over and over in League. It's one of the most reliable things to like, I guess, have a superstition about. But yeah, I think Weibo Gaming has been showing up. They have been like powering up, but the problem is they haven't needed to show up against anybody particularly difficult. Period. Like, I'm sorry. NRG only showed up one game. I actually think if NRG held that level throughout the series, it could have been competitive, like no cope, but they didn't, right? They collapsed afterward, and that's fine. But that means that Weibo game looks like gods. And so all that to say, it should be a 3-1 as well. I think Weibo can take a game. The Shy being good is a huge deal, except for the fact that Bin is better. In every facet above the Shy currently.
Yeah, real quick to just throw in a funny stat that because you were talking about it, they haven't been tested, how NRG only had to play Western teams except for Weibo. Weibo's only had to play Western teams too, except for a game against KT. So they've also had a pretty easy, run up to this point. So I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
Yeah, I think that is a big deal for a lot of players to like in your tournament play well against good teams. Like I do think that if KT didn't have that hard of a run, they would look different against JDG. I think they would get probably 3-0 stomped, like because they actually had to go through a gauntlet. Like they got some nerves out, right? I think one of the reasons you could consider GenG looks so terrible is because that's literally the first good team they played the entire tournament, right? I guess they did play T1, but that's a bit different. But GenG played T1 and then just a bunch of easy teams.
And the T1 matchup didn't train them at all because they've done this. They do this in their sleep.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
And then T1 has like a mental block against them too. So like, you know, it's just that's easy money for them. And then BLG has been tested though. BLG has gone through the fire. They almost threw a series actually. So I think it's very BLG favored. Even Kadril, who's a huge The Shy fan, that guy will shell out his own region to root for Weibo Gaming. He thinks this is one of the worst matchups. He thought GenG and this was the bad bracket side for BLG, and then yeah, like Kevin said, would prefer to play against JDG for some reason. So I mean, Weibo Gaming, when Jun's on, I don't think Weiwei holds a candle to him. I think the bot lane for Weibo or for BLG is way better than BLG. I do think Light and Crisp are pretty bad in terms of top Asian teams. I mean, they're way better than any NA team, but like Light is cracked against NA and actually not that good against usually the other top Asian teams. Light is usually a backseat driver to like some good early games from Weiwei and then Xiaohu and the Shy kind of playmaking, right? But usually Light is kind of a non-factor against top teams. So I just think BLG is going to take it. I think it might be 3-0 unless BLG throws it, which they can definitely do. So I'll go 3-0. I'll go 3-0 just for the hype because I do think BLG is real. I think they're so legit. I think they're really good. Yeah.
Same. Okay. Kevin, did you give your numbers? I know you said.
Yep, 3-1. I was just saying like there is a game that BLG can lose, right? Just because there is enough firepower on Weibo. It's just that like they play this matchup so many times. They do not look good into BLG. Just schools them every time, and it doesn't look close almost ever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think Weibo has very good macro. Even against NRG, I don't think they had good macro. I think they did a lot of let's group and just start a fight and we win sort of stuff. Like so, I think BLG is a much smarter team in general as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the next matchup on Sunday, which I think is going to be crazy. It's T1 versus JDG, and on paper, these are the top two teams as far as performance goes in World so far. T1 has only lost one game, and JDG has lost two. So this is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is a really intense matchup.
It doesn't have the name finals in it, but it could be a finals. So what curse will go through?
I'm going to go last on this because I think you might be surprised with what I am thinking here. So I'll let Kevin go on your predictions.
God.
You guys are going to be, a little bit surprised by me. So I'll let Kevin go. I'll leave you guys in suspense. Okay.
I feel bad about this one, but like it's not going to be close. I think T1 actually has gotten just like a very fake read. They had to show their card, right? They had to show the bot lane meta. I don't think they wanted to show the carrier meta change until a really important match. The problem is LNG is enough firepower where they had to show that trump card. This is the kind of shit you show off in a semifinal or a final every time, right? You show it off when you really need to throw the enemy off. It's like the legendary like MF or Zyra support counter bot. It's like shit like that where like no one expects it and you use it to get a win. But to T1's detriment, it was so effective that the other team did not test them, did not give them any skill. So T1 basically showed their trump card and they're like, yes. And then LNG just rolled over and like, well, we don't get any training on stage. Think about it. What has T1 done on their route so far? They have gotten completely bodied by GenG, they gained nothing of value from the GenG series, except to learn that GenG is still their father. And then what did they learn after that? They learned that, LNG when caught off guard just doesn't do anything, it rolls over. So how has T1 actually gained anything from this tournament? They played Cloud9. Was that close? Absolutely not. They played Liquid. And
they did beat BLG.
They did beat BLG. That is true. So that is the only series, the whole tournament, that they've gained skill from. 2 games.
No, wait. They also beat Team Liquid, which...
they almost lost to Team Liquid. Team Liquid lost to themselves, guys. So is that...
Okay.
So all I'm saying is that, like, so now we can get more into JDG because they actually, are in the series. JDG, the way they approach team fights is, like, unprecedented. Like, the amount of angles they come from, the amount of synergy they go... These motherfuckers come in with like 2 people into 5. Like the Wukong Rakan engages was like 2v4 or 2v5. They just do it every time because they know more than any team in Modern League when to pull that trigger and where their strength lies. Like, yes, they troll early game. They're honestly not an early game team, and I think that's why a lot of teams think they have a chance, but when they were on, it wasn't close. They were taking like 4v5s all the time and winning. That 2v5 at Baron, no other team looks for that. Yes, BDD inted, but because it was unthinkable. Dagda literally said on cast, he's like, guys, KT deserves it. They could go to game 5. This was written in the star, blah, blah, blah. And then automatically smited down. Like, it was actually hilarious. But the reality is only JDG looks for that angle in the world. This is like a classic, like 2015, 2016 T1. Like, they used to do miracles like that too all the time. But JDG is the modern incarnation of that. I think like Knight doesn't have the best laning phase at this tournament, but he's great at looking for angles after. And like, that's a bad thing because T1 isn't like, Faker is also a similar type of player currently, right? And so he's not going to punish Knight that hard. I think across the board, this is really bad unless owner keeps his form and isn't like, it wasn't Tarzan being bad, it was owner being amazing. If that's the case, Kanavi can int. He's a super carry, but he can int.
Yep.
I still think JDG is going to win. I think it's going to be a 3-1, and I think it will be close throughout all the matches, but that's what JDG does most of the time. It looks close until it's not. I think Ruler is the strong point, and Guma is a strong point for T1, but like, when they go at each other, that's not a good thing, right? You don't want your strongest point to go against their like potential GOAT candidate, AD carry, right? And then I think Zeus was looking good, but we've seen this matchup against 369. I'm not worried in the slightest for that. Like, Zeus, when he was on, like before all the tilts, still was even or losing to 369 with the worst jungler in Tien last year. Wait, not Tien. No, he had Kanavi last year.
He had Kanavi. Yeah, I mean, 369 had Zeus's number at MSI this year. But if we do go back and turn the clock back to last year, the semifinals did happen. It was JDG versus T1. It was a different mid laner in ADC, right? They don't have Yagao. I think Yagao is much worse than Knight in recent years. And I do think, obviously, Ruler is a huge upgrade over... It was Light, right? So...
It was Hope on JDG.
Oh, it was Hope, right. Sorry, it was Hope. So I do, obviously JDG is a lot stronger than we were last year, but there are some things that I want to talk about with 369 in that he rolled a couple threes, right? He rolled a couple threes. That's a thing. He rolled a couple sixes, and I'm going to talk about the 6 plays where last year there was a play where he was on Renekton, Faker was on Rise, and he was in a bush. Faker face checks him, and Renekton does stupid Renekton things, and he almost one-shots Faker, but Faker flashes out and lives with like 20 HP or something really little, right? One of the smallest margins of outplays. And then, he runs away, and then all of JDG gets baited into chasing him. He makes that crazy Realm War play, and he escapes, right? Very famous. But what 369 did was very simple, is he didn't do an auto reset on his W. Super simple. He would have killed Faker, because it's 20 damage. He had enough time for it. He's out of vision, right? Jumping on people. He's sloppy in these high 10 scenarios, okay? 369 for 95% of the year is very precise, very clean, really good at the game. But I noticed in this last year since KT, he does a lot of sloppy things. He does a lot of little things that like don't fully translate, that can be punished by a really good player. And when you're against a good team, those tiny little things add up and make you actually lose the game. So I am a bit nervous about 369. I'm a bit nervous about Kanavi. They have been the 2 players on this JDG roster for years and years, and they do have a bit, I think, of sometimes that choking. It hasn't been this year so far, but it has been at every Worlds before in their entire career. So when you talk about Kanavi inting, yeah, he had a couple of int moments against KT. Right, that's like his int moments against KT was why they were able to get that Baron. And if BDD didn't throw, Ruler and Knight don't make that crazy play. So I think Ruler and Knight are insane, and I think actually missing is really good. But those 3 guys that have been on JDG standbys, they int, they really do. It is possible to punish them. To be fair, you can say the same thing about T1 though, right? They did a lot of things I think that could have been punished, it just weren't, right? A lot of this range bot lane stuff, you know what Owner's doing is he's on top side invading while their bot lane is pushing. That can be punished very easily, but no one did it in the LNG series. So to say that this is going to be a clear-cut matchup, I don't think so. I think this is going to be one of the closest, I think, that we could get this tournament. and it's going to be up to who makes like the first mistake. And I really think it could be JDG who makes that first mistake.
So what's your prediction?
Are we doing that already? Okay, shit.
We are. Kevin said 3-1.
Oh, you did say 3-1.
You gave good analysis, but I was like waiting for. All right, so
I thought he was just stalling because
I
am
know.
stalling. Okay, well, I had all these points. I had all these points thought about when I was watching this series. I've been thinking about these points for a little bit.
Okay.
I do not have a prediction yet, so I guess I'm just gonna have to fucking send it. Yeah, I'm gonna go T132.
Okay.
I actually think they could do it. Okay, Gumayushi has played against Ruler a dozen million times, right? Like, he is one of the few AD carries out there that does not completely shit his pants against Ruler, at least in history's time. So I'm rooting for it. I'm actually on the T1 train. I feel like they look so good. I feel like they do have a read on the meta. I've been calling range supports is going to be the new meta since I think halfway through the Swiss stage, and now other co-streams are calling on it too. I do believe that range bot meta is the move, and I don't think missing is going to be as good as them. I think missing is still a great, I think Ruler missing, like on some Zeri Lulu bullshit, yeah, that sounds pretty good. But I think T1's got the range meta stuff. I think they are traumatized by Barrel and Deft, and they got the range meta stuff.
So you're saying T1's going to leave Rakan open for the whole series up to Game 5 is what's going to happen?
I think
Rakan is really legit, dude. That guy was walking over and slapping the enemy jungler for no reason, just getting out. And I was like, who plays like that? He's a psychopath.
Hey, I'm just saying it only looked that good, at least against KT, because they were winning lane as Zeri Rakan, Kai'Sa Rakan against Aphelios Renata and that kind of stuff. That's not real. Okay? That's not real. That's not okay. That is a huge, massive skill gap.
But like I'm just saying they're really good.
Yeah, they are. It's just a skill gap. And I'm trying to say I think that Gumayushi and Keria have the laning prowess to just not allow that. That should not be allowed given equal players. And I'm trying to predict T1, and it's not an easy matchup. If you told me a couple key things, you heard some scrims or something, you heard some backstage knowledge that JG has this tiny little edge, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll switch over. Like, I'm not convinced. Either way, I think this is very close. Yeah.
I also think, to tie into that, like my analysis might be a little surprising and prediction surprising for you guys, but I do think T1's gonna win.
Okay, you you little shit.
Okay,
you're getting another one again from me, by the way. I'm never believing you.
But let me get so
oh
far.
my God.
I have a little bit of thought into this time instead of just like pure heart and faith. Okay, like. So my reasoning is towards this bot lane as well, and I think it's the fact that they have the Kai'Sa counters and the fact that they can pull out the Senna Tom Kench, right? I haven't seen anything like that from JDG. Not to say they haven't been scrimming it or can't do it, but I think that's another additional tool that T1 possibly have, because Kai'Sa has been Ruler's most picked champion out of all the ADCs. And if T1 is able to neutralize that somehow, maybe there's something in draft that JDG does so that they can't, have them counter their Kai'Sa or whatever, then maybe. But I do think there's a little reason, that bot lane can be neutralized. But
I don't think JDG is good at drafting. I'm just gonna say that right now. I don't think JDG is good at drafting. They make their drafts work because they're that good at the game. And I think that if you do ever get team and players that can match them in skill level, like T1, then their drafting will be their downfall. But just let's be honest, JDG doesn't need to care about that stuff. They're just too good. So we'll see. Yeah.
I feel like JDG drafts, they're not good at drafting cohesively. I think they draft so that they can just beat up like the 2v2 or the three-person roaming squad. We'll win this like skirmish. They pick based off the enemy team, I feel like, a lot. And that's odd to me. Like, very few teams can pull that off. And I also agree. Like, they went 3-2 at MSI because I think their drafting's worse. But T1 is also not traditionally like the best drafting team. They have some gimmicks that they're very good at, like the bot lane stuff. And if they can make it work, then yeah, they have better drafts. But I actually think T1 makes some of the most egregious drafting mistakes. Okay, I didn't see KTN in international for a while, but T1 made the most consistently at Worlds, right? Or internationally for a while now. Like, that's why they lost 2 friggin' DRX last year. Like I really think
that's
these guys are
true.
mental. Their draft is just egregious.
I think that yes, sometimes, but also it depends what iteration of T1. Because I think in the past, you could say T1 was like JDG in that they draft very ego because their players are so good, and it looks like a bad draft. I think
Good point.
they did that in game three. Honestly, I think that game three draft where they gave over Oriana to scout and pick Azir into it, lost lane. Right, I do think that game three against LNG was a bit of an ego draft from T1. Right, the Jace top lane is kind of an ego pick. Um, Saying you're going to dumpster lane against a Renekton. So I think T1, like it's like you have some very cohesive, good comp drafts, and then you have some other drafts where it's like we're gonna hands gap you, and we're gonna pick the champions that just accelerate that, just like make that hands gap even larger. And I think JDG does that all the time. T1 used to do it all the time, and it used to look bad. They seem to change. I'm
Yeah.
banking on the fact that T1 is just making, I feel like, really smart draft choices. And
I
Banky
mean,
is
they're
not
probably just
here
older.
anymore.
They're probably
So
just a little older, a little more
yeah,
mature, a little
yeah,
more like, hey, less ego, let's win this thing,
they're not the
kind of deal.
favorites for this tournament,
Right?
right?
Sure.
They're
Yeah.
not. So like they have taken things a bit more seriously, maybe, right?
Yeah.
I think last year when they did a lot of ego drafts, like come on, blind picking Victor for Faker, that's an ego pick thinking that you can just beat whatever Zeka brings out. Victor was not meta that year, right?
Yeah.
I do think that they hopefully shed this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Okay. Well, my prediction then is going to be T1, but I'm thinking it's 3-2. I mean, I think
Yep.
just that's just the safe thing. I don't think it's going to be a stomp, but I do think
We
T1's
know it's going to be hype. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be hype, guys.
I can't wait to. I
There's no
can't
way
wait
it's
to
not
see
going to
it.
be.
But since we were talking about kind of the whole bot lane and the different things that T1 has been pulling out, let's kind of shift a little bit and talk about meta. Anything that you guys want to mention with things that we've seen? I know we saw the Gwen, we saw a Wukong come out, we saw Ash support. We saw Neela, all these crazy things. Is there anything that you're expecting? Oh, and by the way, the range supports definitely have come out with Renata and Milio and Lulu. And so, what are your thoughts heading into the semifinals? Do you think there's, what do you guys think we'll see? Any surprises that you think we may see this weekend?
My thoughts are that the recon priority is just a few characters thing. I don't think it's actually as OP as it looked in that series against KT. So I don't think that's going to be that big. I think Wukong priority goes up, as we probably alluded to earlier. I think that the power of Aatrox is also kind of interesting. Zeus did a really cool thing where he went lethality and he actually played it super well on in lethality Aatrox, which is a much harder thing to do. Like 369, the Shy, they all play really good Gourd Drinker Aatroxes. But in reality, Gourd Drinker Aatrox is like playing a tank. You have like 10 seconds to make a good decision. And even if you do a bad TP, it's not that bad as long as your team like follows up within 5 seconds.
Sometimes it's a good one because you just tank everything.
Exactly, right? It's like the ADC initiate, but like you have 5x the health. So all to say is like I think Aatrox will be contested. I think that Wukong will be contested just because they're so powerful right now. And then the last thing I would say is like I think teams are finding answers to Xayah. When she is left up, she is still unquestionably good, but teams are like doing what they've always done, right? Kai'Sa can get behind her and just beat her up. And if you do attack her from enough angles, like Xayah has always been a more you need to be within my like 140-degree cone of influence or else I'm useless. Not useless, so I'm not as good, right? Her output's just too strong, even as just a traditional ADC, so that's why she'll always be good. But I think that she will be banned not 100% of the time, and she'll be left up at times where teams want to threaten you with a counter in terms of comp. So those are my quick analysis. I agree with everything Mitchell said about like the range supports coming back in. Like Missing isn't as good. He's like a modern core JJ, I guess, if you're saying like he's very good at engage, right? And he's a high level player like that. But I think Ruler is good enough to make up for the fact that Missing just needs to play Lulu or Renata.
I mean,
Missing's Renata was actually good.
No, Missing has a good Renata and Lulu. It's just every other thing I don't think we've seen from him. He hasn't needed to play. But like those two specifically, no, Missing is very, very good on those champions. For sure.
Much better than Lehenz's Renata. Oh my god.
That was so game losing, man. To do game 2 after winning game 1 to see Lehenz's Renata, I was like, come on,
dude,
man.
You look like a first time Renata on ARAM, like just ulting aggressively all the time.
Dude,
terrible
flashing
angles.
forward to Q somebody is like, that's not You can't do that, Renata, man. That shit is slow.
Homie thought he was playing Blitzcrank. It was so
No,
bad. Okay, that's
it was
all.
rough.
That's all I have.
Yeah,
For the
with the bot lane meta, I mean, this is my predictions that I've kind of stolen from, I mean, Cadril and Double Lift and stuff like that. But it's also, I agree in that I also was trying to predict this earlier. It just wasn't really coming out. But like, Gumayusha picked Varus, and then boom. I think that's when the dam breaks, right? As soon as you pick Varus and you start dumpstering lane, you're willing to play lethality Varus too, or you know, switch to on hit sometimes if it makes sense. That's when we start to see basically last year's meta, right? We start to see the arms race. Will JDG opt into the arms race of, okay, you picked Varus, we're going to start to do Caitlyn, we're going to start to do Jinx, we're going to do Ashe, right? You want to do Ashe support, Senna support, okay, are we going to pick Heimerdinger? What are we going to do here? Like, where does it go in terms of the arms race? Because we have seen this develop spring of this year, last year, Worlds meta, right? The arms race went pretty crazy in bot lane for who was going to go harder into win lane. And then it usually wraps all the way back around where they decide to sack lane and just scale, right? And then go for the ganks and give up. So I personally think JDG is going to stick with the probably the melee supports, try to just survive lane, go for ganks, right? Get Kanavi down there because you know what happens. Even if you blow all your flashes to kill that to burn the enemy bot lane's flash, if you're playing Varus Ashe or some bullshit and you both lose your summoners, doesn't matter that the enemy also lost their summoners to get those. You are sitting ducks, right? You're sitting ducks against Jarvan, Vi, bunch of junglers, Sejuani, Maokai, all that stuff. So I do think this is going to be a very interesting thing to see what JDG does because there's time, right? Like Kevin said, they showed their card, so now we get to see the cook. We get to see what the chefs come up with, and yeah, I just think JDG is probably not going to come up with the greatest answer, and they're going to have to hands diff their way out of it. It's my guess. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Good stuff. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap this quarterfinal episode up?
I don't know, man. What a fun time, crazy time. This is we needed T1 to win, bro, for the views,
Absolutely.
man.
Oh yeah.
For the
I think
vibes,
it's
for
great.
the
Yeah.
views, everything. Like, okay, here's also the crazy thing that I want to talk about. If we talk about the future, right? So there's two narratives we could go. Obviously, the Faker narrative is very, very powerful, right? There's Faker narrative, there's making it to finals, there's winning trophies, right? There's his legacy, there's his team's gonna break up at the end of this year. There's also the fact that Faker doesn't lose best of series to Chinese teams at Worlds. He loses them at MSI all the time, but not at Worlds. He's never lost one. So will that hold? Or will we see JDG versus BLG for like the 50th time this year, right? That is the second direction we could
I don't
go.
want
And that
that
is
one.
I do. Isn't that the coolest thing? You see JDG versus BLG all year long. JDG beats you, and if BLG makes it there to JDG, BLG wins. I am just saying that if we get JDG versus BLG in the finals, I'm predicting it now. We'll have another episode to predict it again. BLG is going to win that one. That's just a bit of a spoiler. You guys aren't very hyped about it. I thought this was going
I'm
to be a
not
cool thing
hype
to
at
say.
all. Well, first of all, you predicted T1 to beat JDG.
I
So
know. I'm just saying. I know. I'm all
I
over
know.
the place. Okay? I'm
Okay.
all over the place. It's not consistent. I made up
Yeah.
my prediction in that moment because I think it's
Okay.
that close between JDG and T1.
Okay.
But if we do see JDG versus BLG,
All right.
that is anime
So
as
that's your
fuck.
secondary prediction.
That's
if,
I
if
mean,
JDG
isn't that?
wins.
I think that just defines the year of 2023. That is 2023, right? BLG versus JDG would have just defined the entire year,
I think
and
it's
to end it with
because
finals would be poetic.
so now that would be hype, but I think it's because it's another civil war, and I don't want a civil war. I want two regions because like worlds, right? Like we get enough domestic, rivalries, domestic matchups. For me, it's yes the Faker thing, but also Korea versus China. Who's the better team? So for me, that one is more hype for both of those reasons. I think
Yeah.
JDG and BLG would be, of course, a great matchup. It's going to be fun to watch. But it's like you're right. We've seen it a lot, and I'm like, do I want to see it again
But
as the world?
we've only seen one team win it though. I think that this would be the coolest thing
Okay, if
BLG won.
if BLG won it, it would be cool. But if JDG wins that sucker, I'm gonna be like boring.
I'm just saying the coolest timeline in
boring?
existence
It's the
is
Royal Road for the first time. How's that boring?
It's boring. to me.
I mean that's
I don't
cool.
like
The Royal
Dude, I think that's a fan sentiment. That's like T. If
Yeah,
T1
it is.
doesn't win, it's boring, guys.
It
Yeah.
sure as hell
Okay,
is, Kevin.
I mean, there's all of the routes, right? The Golden Road is also a super interesting narrative too. Like, good for JDG. Like, I'm down for it to not to happen, to be this mythical unicorn thing that never happens, and I think it would just be anime as fuck for BLG to just lose to them all year and then beat them when it matters the most. Deny them their trophy, deny the entire reason that JDG existed to win Worlds.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Ruler is going to be happy if he won everything this year and then lost Worlds. He'll be like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I would love it if BLG just took it to the moon. It's Knight versus Yagao for the 10 millionth time too, right? Yagao has been inting his brains off, yet come on, man. I would love it for BLG to win that. I think it would be the only narrative way to actually beat cooler than last year's DRX vs T1 narrative.
Okay.
It would just be cool.
Okay.
But that's just, just a pipe dream. If we're thinking analytically, I think JDG just poops on BLG, but yeah.
But it would be so anime if BLG did it. Like, I think my mind might implode if that happened. And if Weibo Gaming wins, it would be a 4th seed from China.
Okay, that would be cool too. Whoever wins, it's cool. Yeah.
Xiaohu finally wins it all after having 3 MSIs and still getting underestimated. Like, to be fair, Xiaohu's been playing like ass this tournament. Like he's been bad. Like there are lots of great mid laners of all time who aren't laners but have amazing out of lane. He hasn't been a laner for most of the matchups, and his out of lane has been average at best and into at most times.
Yeah, it took him a while to warm up in that energy series for sure.
He did warm up, but it
took a while, but yeah, he did.
I mean, he is against Palo Faker. Okay,
yeah,
that's all I have to say.
He's against a genius.
I think all of the results now are good, but it had to be prefaced on T1 making. If T1 did not make it, this would have been much worse narratively.
Yeah,
and I think Riot needs to hurry up and figure out how to make everyone else more popular. Because when T1 doesn't show up, you could win 3 LCKs in a row and you're still not popular in Korea compared to T1, compared to Faker. So this is the problem in every esports. It's your first GOAT or your first major player. Once they die out, not literally, but like once they retire and stuff like that, viewership drops off a cliff. And that happened in NA when we lost Bjergsen for a while and Double for a while. Like our viewership did drop. And they came back. So it wasn't the Double and Bjergsen's we remember.
Yeah. They didn't recover, right? I think that's the big thing. Once they left, it doesn't matter if you come back. It's really hard to take back what you've lost. So yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
People like retcon Uzi's career all the time because they're like, he's not good now. I'm like, well, yeah, but
yeah.
Well, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun. I know that, and I love that the different storylines are there. It's gonna be exciting either way. I can't wait to see what happens and then hash it out and talk about it next week.
We win it. No matter how it goes, we win. Okay, LCS, we already won the war. We won the real war.
We won the real war.
Whatever happens, we're big chillin'.
It's icing on the cake now. Yeah, icing on the cake now. It's all good. All great.
This is our victory lap,
like it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks again for all you listening. Be sure to join us in Discord, follow us and comment on YouTube and all that good stuff. But until next time, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic. And we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.